Welcome back. In the last videos, we've been talking about prime numbers and prime factorizations of numbers. Today we're going to be talking about when two numbers, a and b, are relatively prime. Two numbers are relatively prime if their greatest common divisor is equal to 1. Another word for relatively prime is coprime. There are two equivalent definitions. A and b are relatively prime if they do not share any divisors other than 1, or we can say two numbers are relatively prime if they do not share any prime divisors. Let's look at some examples. 4 and 6 both share a factor of 2, so 4 and 6 are not relatively prime. 16 and 27, 16 is a power of 2, and 27 is a power of 3, so they do not share any prime divisors, and so 16 and 27 are relatively prime. And what if we have distinct primes p and q? We know that p and q don't share any divisors other than 1, and so p and q are always relatively prime when p and q are distinct primes. When we have two numbers that are not prime, we can use the prime factorizations of a and b to determine whether they are relatively prime. So let's write a is equal to p1 to the e1 times p2 to the e2 times pk to the ek, and we write b is equal to q1 to the f1 times q2 to the f2 times times ql to the fl. The prime factorizations of a and b written with only positive exponents. At no place in this product do we have a factor that looks like a prime to the 0th power. Then a characterization of when a and b are relatively prime depends on what the primes are in the prime factorization of a and the prime factorization of b. If we let capital P be this set of primes in the prime factorization of a, and we let capital Q be the set of primes in the prime factorization of b, and if those two sets are disjoint, that determines that a and b are relatively prime. This goes back to one of the early definitions from our class. These sets are disjoint if the intersection is the empty set. Let's see this characterization in action. Let's say we have a number, 935, and the number 936. Are those numbers relatively prime? The prime factorization of 935 is 5 times 11 times 17, and the prime factorization of 936 is 2 to the 3 times 3 squared times 13. If we take the set of primes in the two prime factorizations, we get 5, 11, and 17 in the prime factorization of 935, and 2 and 3 and 13 in the prime factorization of 936. Those two sets do not have any elements in common. Their intersection is the empty set, and therefore 935 and 936 are relatively prime. That's it for this video. See you next time.